Welcome back, Defenders. Let's start by following up on the Ukrainian attack on the Russian port city of Novorossiysk. I have good news, and I have bad news. The good news is that Ukraine definitely destroyed a battery of S-400 launchers and radars. This was like a $500 million worth of very important equipment that Russia definitely lost. The bad news, according to Reuters, Russia's Novorossiysk port resumes oil loadings after Ukrainian attack. How is this possible? Russia's Novorossiysk port resumed oil loadings on Sunday after a 2-day suspension triggered by a Ukrainian missile and drone attack. According to LSEG data, 2 tankers are currently loading oil at the port's berths. The Ukrainian attack damaged 2 oil berths at Novorossiysk. The attack on Novorossiysk, Russia's largest Black Sea export hub, was the most damaging Ukrainian attack to date on Russia's main Black Sea crude export infrastructure. Novorossiysk accounts for about a fifth of Russian crude exports, and a long shutdown would have forced costly shuttering of oil wells in West Siberia, a step that would have significantly reduced the amount of oil sent to world markets by the world's second largest exporter. This Ukrainian attack and getting this terminal back online, this is Russia's #1 priority. But this doesn't make any sense to me. I saw the explosion. This is a picture of the fire. How can their main export terminal in Novorossiysk be blown up and on fire, and then 3 days later they resume normal operations? This is the satellite image. Does none of this equipment matter? I don't really know what it does, but it looks complicated and it was blown up. So we don't know exactly what the Russians are doing. I'm sure they did not do their due diligence to make sure that everything is working properly and within safety standards. So potentially they just have guys with buckets out there trying to fill up these tankers, or maybe they've got like manual crank pumps. I don't know what they're doing. But this is insane. But this shows you how important this facility is. That 3 days after a missile attack, they're still telling ships to come in and start filling up again. It's disappointing. I was hoping that this terminal would be offline for a while. But if Ukraine successfully struck it with an S-400 system defending it, and now that S-400 system is gone, something tells me Ukraine is going to take another shot. As long as these ships continue going to these berths at this oil terminal and filling up, Ukraine just has to strike it again, and again, and again, until it's offline. There is a positive benefit to this, and the price of Urals oil is going down, but so is the global price of oil. But the two prices between ICE Brent crude, this is the global oil price, and then the Urals, continues to diverge. Urals trades at a discount because Russia is now the most sanctioned country in the world. But also, why would you do business with the Russians when the Ukrainians are actively trying to destroy their oil export infrastructure? If you make payments and sign contracts, and then you don't get your delivery because an export terminal was blown up, that's a risk. That's a risk for countries like India and China to have their supplies disrupted because of the war that Russia started. So this causes the price bidding to go lower and lower, meaning the Russians are getting less and less. That's a good thing. Beyond that, we're back to business as normal, striking oil refineries deep inside Russia. Ryazan oil refinery ablaze. Nibu U radar also destroyed. This is the only video we have. It is November in Russia, so it's going to be very dark. But the refinery, according to locals, is on fire. We can go to the war map, and this is the Ryazan refinery. And the Ukrainian who makes these charts, he had to change the font to make it smaller, because now the Ryazan refinery has been struck 10 times. Now once in November, once in October, once in September, once in August of this year, in addition to March, February, and January. Russia really wants this refinery operating, Ukraine really wants it offline. These attacks will continue until this facility can no longer properly operate. Ukrainian drones strike oil refinery in Russia's Saratov. This is the picture we have showing the refinery once again on fire. And according to Reuters, all oil refinery has stopped at the Saratov refinery as a result of these attacks. When we go to the war map, here is the Saratov oil refinery. Once again, this has been struck 10 times. Three times now in November, once in October, twice in September, once in August, once in February, and once in January of this year. I don't have the information why these specific refineries are so important and why Ukraine wants to knock them offline, but I'm guessing it has to do with something with producing refined products for the Russian military. Ukraine strikes major oil refinery in Russia's Samara Oblast, hits elite Rubicon drone base as well. Once again, not great videos showing these nighttime strikes when Russia currently is experiencing like 14 or 15 hours of darkness a day. But this is the best we got. When we go to the bingo board, here is the Samara Oblast. This is the 5th time this refinery has been struck. 7.9 million tons of products produced per year, 900 kilometers from the border. And it's going to continue until Russia can no longer produce. What else? We're going after power plants. Ukrainian drone swarm strikes occupied Donetsk, triggering fires and power outages. This was a coordinated drone strike on the city of Donetsk. This is the occupied territories. We don't know exactly what was hit, but maybe it was the Donetsk metallurgic plant, as well as their local power infrastructure. The thermal power plants in Oriel also was struck again last night. This has been hit, I think, about once a week for the last month, and Ukraine's going to keep striking it until it can no longer produce. Ukraine launches first missile campaign against Russia's power grid, destroying major thermal power plants. This has been going on for a little over a month now, and we're just getting into it. This is the beginning phase. After months of drone warfare, Kyiv has escalated to precision missile strikes on Russia's energy infrastructure, coordinated attacks on thermal power plants in Voronezh and Oriel mark Ukraine's first deliberate campaign using long-range precision missiles against Russia's core energy system, leaving entire cities without power, heat, or water. This is a comprehensive video from the YouTube channel Reporting from Ukraine, or RFU News. These are all the thermal power plants that Ukraine has now struck in their new missile campaign. We have Bryansk, Kursk, Belgorod, Oriel, and Voronezh. These are outside of Moscow. This is Volgograd. This is Donetsk, Crimea, and Krasnodar. Russia can keep trying to repair them, but this is what Russia is doing to Ukraine, and Ukraine has to respond. Russia's just been doing it for 4 years, and Ukraine just got started. Russia has more to lose, I guarantee you. What else has Ukraine been up to? Ukrainian intelligence derails the Trans-Siberian Railway over 6,000 kilometers from Ukraine. This train at the time was shipping munitions from North Korea. Ukraine got the intelligence and they derailed it. On the Euromaidan Press YouTube channel, they covered this, and the partisans showed the explosives they planted under the track. They waited for the train to show up, and then they detonated it to derail the train. I can link this video down below if you want to see it. Pro-Ukrainian partisans sabotage rail equipment in Russian-occupied Zaporizhia. This is Atesh, and almost every day they set something on fire. Switching stations, or mostly anything having to do with the rail systems. Sometimes they sneak onto military bases and they set stuff on fire, but mostly they go after railroad tracks in the middle of nowhere. This does slow the Russians down, but railroad tracks are easy fixes once you get the crews out there. It feels like a lot, guys. There's a lot going on, and I know with the seasonal change, a lot of people get this feeling about this time of year. But the Russians feel it too. As melancholy as you might be feeling because of the weather, because of the news headlines, I guarantee it's just as bad in Russia for the Russians. This is Z-Patriot Maxim Kalishnikov. And Maxim Kalishnikov is probably the most Russian name ever. Both names are guns. And this guy, for some reason, has been speaking out of line. We used to get clips of Prigozhin speaking the truth until Putin had him killed. We used to get clips of Gherkin speaking the truth until Putin put him in jail. But now it's this guy. I don't know why. But for the last couple of weeks, he's been putting out videos about how terrible the war is going for Russia. When he is a Z-Patriot. He's for the genocide of the Ukrainian state. But this is what he said on his show. You understand yourself what needs to be done now because, I repeat, very, very harsh times are coming. A prolonged war will turn into an economic crisis. The economic crisis will turn into a social one, and the social one will turn into a political one. I want to address our viewers. Those who don't know what will happen tomorrow should open the history textbooks for the 9th and 10th grades. Look at what happened here 100 years ago. 100, 110, 120. What contributed to this? The First World War, right? 3 years of war, the impoverishment of the population, discontent in the army, a decline in production, and as a result, a civil war. Well, revolution and then the Civil War. Yes, at first they removed the Tsar. They thought it would be better that way. And only later did the Bolsheviks come. If you don't believe Maxim and me, then read a history textbook. That's not something that Putin encourages. World War II history only, pretend like World War I and the Bolshevik Revolution never happened. Just change the dates and the names, and the whole puzzle will come together immediately, I assure you. Yura, I'll tell you that 3 years of an unpopular war is the limit. I've read memoirs that say, after 3 years of an unpopular war in December 1916, the first refusals of Russian troops to go on the attack began. What, the merchants are partying back home, while we're supposed to go under machine gun fire. This is the end of 1916. It already started 3 months before February 1917. It's clear that the guys, well, then the bread shortages started. Nevertheless, this had already happened in the past. If you don't believe us, believe history. History as a way of repeating itself. It moves in a spiral. Everything is a spiral, guys. These are Russian propagandists who want to destroy Ukraine, saying that this war is unpopular after 3 years. When really this war is finishing its 4th year, about to go on its 5th year. Yes, history repeats. We're hoping for Russia to collapse, just like it did at the end of World War I, just like it did at the end of the Cold War. Based on history, what country in the world is most likely to collapse? And it's Russia, because they've done it twice in the last 110 years. Ukrainian commander calls for calm and less overreaction to new Kremlin push in the south. Let's do a Frontline update, and this has a lot of people concerned. When the Russians are moving, when they're making progress, we get alarmist headlines. So here is the map. This is deepstatemap.live as of Halloween, October 31st. So this will be November 1st, November 2nd. We can just kind of click ahead and you can see the map updates where the Russians are coming west into the Dnipro Oblast, but specifically they're gobbling up more open fields in Zaporizhia. How far do they move? 5 or 6 kilometers. But anytime there's movement on the map, there are alarmist headlines. Zaporizhia is about to be surrounded. That's what the headlines are saying. I still think big picture, guys, if we get out the map, from here to here, the Russians have gone, we'll say 90 kilometers. 90 kilometers in 4 years. For them to reach Zaporizhia, another 90 kilometers. Is that another 4 years, based on the rate they've been going? No, they're not advancing on Zaporizhia from the south. They're gobbling up open fields. If you look at this region of the map, there aren't any mid-sized towns. Russia is really good at taking open fields because they don't care about casualties. There's going to be dugouts with Ukrainian defenders, and they're going to have drones, they're going to have ammunition, machine guns, whatever. But as soon as they run out of ammunition, they either have to surrender or fall back. So Russia just sends wave after wave into these dugouts and positions until Ukrainian defenders run out of ammunition. Russia literally is sending more guys, more bodies, than Ukraine has bullets. That is their only strategy to advance through open fields. And Russia doesn't have a problem with that. Where Russia trips up is when they hit a mid-sized town, population greater than 20,000. As soon as they get within a city or a town of greater than 20,000, it usually takes them a year to take it. So yes, Russia's going to make progress, I think, in this region, filling in these open fields because they're really indefensible for Ukrainian defenders. But we're going to see headlines such as this or posts such as this. I do want to mention Sternenko because this is a big deal. He is the largest pro-Ukraine YouTuber. I think he has over 2 million subscribers. On Twitter, he has close to 500,000 followers. And this is what he posted yesterday. I'll read the English. Unfortunately, everything is almost exactly like that. We are heading towards a strategic scale catastrophe that could lead to the loss of statehood, and this is still a very diplomatic assessment. To not notice this is a crime. To remain silent is a crime. Under the current circumstances and without global changes, not only at the level of military command, but also in the political approach to the defense of war, the question of when Russian tanks will roll into, say, Zaporizhia or Dnipro is merely a matter of time. Our defense is falling apart, amid the stunning silence about it. Sternenko turned off comments so people can't respond. I know people are stressed out. I'm not Ukrainian. I don't have any family in Ukraine. I emotionally cannot be affected the way that Ukrainians can. So I'm going to give all the compassion and sympathy and understanding I can to Ukrainian YouTubers and military bloggers, but we're not surrendering. Nobody is surrendering. The Russians are not giving us a choice. This is EU Foreign Policy Chief Kallas, and I want to play for you this clip because she summarizes exactly what's going on in 30 seconds.
I've just returned from a meeting of G7 foreign ministers, and we all agreed that immediate and full ceasefire is a priority. But right now, Russia does not want to negotiate at all. Every time the world reaches out, Russia responds with missiles. Russia's latest attacks make abundantly clear that Russia is pressing with war, and this pattern keeps repeating.
If there was a peace deal, if there was a negotiation, if there was a way to make this war stop, Ukraine would do it. Zelensky, I think at this point, would do it. But Russia's not negotiating. Russia's not going to stop. They're going to keep sending their soldiers and their people to die in these meat wave attacks until Putin thinks he can take everything he can take. And we're going to continue the defense. Nobody is surrendering. Nobody is giving up. Is Russia going to continue making progress? Yes, but that's the battle we've been fighting for 4 years, trading a little bit of land for a little bit more time. Zelensky says nobody is pushed to die for ruins as Pokrovsk battle rages in the fog. Zelensky says Ukraine faces a very difficult situation in Pokrovsk, vowing to support commanders' decisions as Russian forces advance under the cover of thick fog. We've been talking about Pokrovsk being encircled for almost 3 months. The Russians have been outside the city trying to take the city for a year and a half. This is the game we've been playing, trading a little bit of land for a little bit more time. And it's important we don't waste our time. That's what this war is about. So it looks like Ukrainian defenders are doing some kind of controlled withdrawal. The Russians are slowly filling in this gap, and the front lines will smooth out. The name of the game is just make them bleed. Every time they want to take another street or go to another block, there's a Ukrainian drone operator waiting for them. This isn't like Bakhmut. Bakhmut was urban warfare, people with their Kalashnikovs fighting in the streets. But nobody sees each other anymore in this war. Everything is being fought with drones. This is what the front lines, the gray zones, look like across 1,500 kilometers. Let me play this video. And these are all of the FPV fiber optic cables. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians are using them. Both sides have thousands of operators working around the clock, hunting anything that moves, blowing up any vehicle or anything that looks like it might be valuable. Modern warfare is horrifying. This is taking its toll on both sides, guys. That's the point I want to make. I understand Ukraine is in a difficult situation, but so is Russia. 2,000 Russian drones, 150 missiles hit Ukraine's energy grid as repair workers operate like ants between emergencies. Rolling blackouts affect multiple regions as workers coordinate rapid repairs on generation sites, transmission lines, and gas infrastructure damaged by Russia's missile attacks in October and November. What's the good news? Ukraine begins mass production of Interceptor drones to bolster air defense. There just aren't enough Patriot systems or Patriot missiles in the world to save Ukraine. They have to invent their own new technology to stop at least the drone attacks. Ukraine is launching mass production of Interceptor drones. 3 companies are already building them, but 11 more have contracts to start constructing them. This is according to Reuters. All systems will run on Octopus Tech, combat tested to hit Shaheeds at night, under jamming, and at low altitude. Ukraine's goal is to start producing 1,000 a day. You then just have to train the operators and the crews. They need to gain experience, and you need to evenly distribute them throughout the entire country. What else can Ukraine do? It's a good plan. This is a great technology, and I think incrementally it will keep improving with every learning lesson and iteration, but it takes time. I saw this photograph and I just want to share it. This couple, their home was blown out by a Russian Shahed drone. They lost their window, and they're still there. They survived, and they still love each other. This is what people should be focusing on in their life, not trying to steal each other's territory and resources. Let's follow up on the corruption scandal. Zelensky pledges rapid reform of state energy firms amid major government scandal, calls for new leadership. Here is Zelensky trying to do damage control. We are beginning the overhaul of key state-owned enterprises in the energy sector, alongside a full audit of their financial activities. The management of these companies is to be renewed. Today, together with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Economy, we define the course of action. Energodom, within a week, all conditions must be in place to form a new professional supervisory board, enabling a complete overhaul of the company's management. So this is Ukraine's nuclear state energy giant. Everyone's being fired because there's no way everyone didn't know about the kickbacks and the corruption going on. And if they knew and weren't participating, they didn't report it, they didn't speak up, they need to go as well. A complete overhaul of the management at this Ukrainian state company. Same thing with the hydroelectric company. An urgent competition is to be held to appoint a new company head, and the complete transformation of the supervisory board. Gas Transmission System Operator of Ukraine, this is another company. The supervisory board must be completed and an urgent competition held for the position of CEO. Naftogaz of Ukraine, as the current supervisory board contracts expires in January, a competition must be announced and conducted for the new board so that it can start operating in January 2026. In all other major state-owned energy companies, the state's representatives on supervisory boards are to be renewed. I have also instructed government officials to maintain constant and meaningful communication with law enforcement and anti-corruption bodies. Any scheme uncovered in these companies must receive a swift and just response. Full transparency and integrity in the energy sector remains an absolute priority. Glory to Ukraine. A lot of people are being fired. I think more information is going to be discovered. More people are going to be arrested. And Ukraine is trying to clean house of their state energy enterprises of corruption while fighting a war. This is a good thing. It's necessary, but this is disruptive. And unfortunately, there's just a lot of people implicated. I'm sure once you start pulling that string on a sweater, the sweater unravels faster and faster. But this has to be done. This is the individual. Let's see here. Timur Mindich, he had his Ukrainian citizenship taken away from him because he fled the country in response to this scandal. Speculation is he went to Israel because he also has an Israeli passport. Nabu and Sapo ran a 15-month probe into his company in the energy sector. 70 searches, 5 arrests, and over 1,000 hours of wiretaps. Investigators say contractors were pushed to pay 10 to 15% kickbacks on fortification projects against Russian missiles and drones. In my last video, I said he should be put up against a brick wall and executed, and then somebody explained to me, you can't say that or do that, Jake, because then he won't be extradited. If we want him returned to Ukraine to stand trial for his crimes, then you can't threaten capital punishment. Otherwise, Israel or whatever country has him, they won't return him. So, okay, we'll settle. But he should spend the rest of his life in jail. That's fine. I can accept that. Oh, this is not great. U.S. delays sanctions on Russian oil giant Lukoil, according to Bloomberg. More bark than bite. White House accused of watering down Russian oil sanctions with Lukoil concession. The U.S. Treasury issued multiple licenses, including a critical deadline extension that critics say signal a reluctant, selective approach to punishing Moscow's energy sector. Trump tacoed out. He put these tough sanctions on Lukoil and Rosneft almost a month ago. They were about to go into enforcement, and he granted as many exceptions. Anybody who wanted an exception, basically, got an exception. He tacoed out. He loves Russia. But there actually might be a financial motivation here from the Trump administration. U.S. firm Carlyle seeks to buy Russia's Lukoil foreign assets. So Lukoil, this is a Russian company controlled by Putin. They were trying to shift their overseas assets to this Swiss trading company, which Putin also still controls. The United States, under Scott Bessent, said, we're not going to allow this. If this Swiss trader buys it, we'll just sanction them. The buyer then fell through. Lukoil didn't have a buyer for their overseas assets. But now there's a U.S. company called the Carlyle Group who wants to buy Russia's overseas assets owned by Lukoil. Reuters was the first to report Carlyle's interest. It is looking to apply for U.S. license, allowing it to buy the assets before beginning due diligence. The Trump administration is threatening anybody because they want America to control these refineries in Moldova and Romania and wherever else. Iraq. It's just about control, guys, and I imagine once they control these refineries, they'll engage in the same corruption that the Russians were doing. There's really not much of a difference between the Trump administration and Putin. That's my final assessment here, but the Carlyle Group is a private equity firm with $500 billion in assets under management. The world is complicated, and I'm glad you guys are here with me. I'm going to keep making these videos. I'm going to keep speaking the truth. But we're going to have some bad days ahead. It can't all just be fun stuff like the port of Novorossiysk blowing up, but this is going to be a tough winter. Probably the toughest winter for Ukraine. But it's also going to be the toughest winter for the Russians. Final clip I want to share with you is from Yaroslava. I share her videos frequently. If you want to support her, she has a Patreon page. But this is the Sofia Square in Kyiv, and this is the annual Empty Chairs event in support of journalists, writers, and cultural figures who have gone missing, imprisoned, or held captive by the Russians. So every one of these empty chairs is a Ukrainian who was a patriot, and the Russians wanted them dead or silenced. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.